Hey there everybody, it's KISSTORY time again. It's been too long since I've made one of these videos, so I thought it was time again to delve into the history of my favorite band, KISS. When I left you guys at the end of the last episode, KISS had just finished their epic reunion tour in the summer of 1997. KISS fans had been thrilled with that tour because not only was it this incredible return to the original lineup, return to performing in like makeup and costumes as well, the full KISS show experience, but it was also massively successful. It was their most successful tour to date, and quite possibly, in fact almost definitely, their most successful tour of all time. They had the #1 top grossing tour of 1996 after all. And then once that was over, KISS told their fans that it was not the end of the reunion at all, that they were moving forward, and that they were going to make a new album. This was super exciting. There had not been a new album credited to the original lineup since Dynasty way back in 1979. But really there hadn't been an album made by the original lineup since Love Gun. Dynasty didn't really feature Peter Criss on drums other than on a song or two. So KISS fans were stoked. One thing I'm kind of glossing over here is the release of the album Carnival of Souls, which came out in 1997. Carnival of Souls is an easy album to sort of lose in the mix because it was recorded in late 1994, early 1995, of course, by the Bruce Kulick, Eric Singer lineup, and the project was kind of put on the back burner when KISS decided to go forward with the reunion. That album was just shelved entirely. It wasn't until after the reunion tour ended that in the summer / maybe fall of 1997, that album finally actually came out under its new title, Carnival of Souls, The Final Sessions, alluding to the fact that it was the final sessions with Eric Singer and Bruce Kulick, although not really. But yeah, the final hurrah for that lineup of KISS in any case. And to be honest, it's, I think, the only album in KISS's catalog that I haven't listened to all the way through. I've heard tracks there. It's so different from virtually all other KISS albums. I really need to give that album a shot. But yeah, it just, like I said, due to the fact that it got pushed back for a couple of years and, to my knowledge, wasn't very heavily promoted when it did come out in 1997, that it's just easy to forget about. But in the meantime, KISS promised to do a new album, like I said, although the fall and winter of 1997 was mostly downtime for the group, although Paul and Gene particularly, although all four of them were working on song ideas and trying to find a producer for their next album. The #1 choice was always Bob Ezrin, who of course produced Destroyer to great acclaim. He also produced music from The Elder to less acclaim, and then Revenge in 1992, which was not a hugely successful album chart-wise, but KISS fans love that album. It's a great record. But they did some preliminary sessions and preliminary work with Bob Ezrin, but the schedules just couldn't line up, so they eventually went their separate ways, and they, after a while, selected Bruce Fairbairn to produce their next album. He'd had lots of success in the past. He had worked with Bon Jovi, and he'd worked with Aerosmith as well, among others. Big name in the rock world. And the sessions really started to heat up in about January of 1998. Gene and Paul, though, were the only real members of KISS consistently involved with this project. Ace and Peter each presented some songs for the sessions, but Ace's song Into the Void was put on the album, and that was his only songwriting contribution to the record, I believe, and I don't think Peter has one. I know he sings on I Finally Found My Way, but that, let me just double check here. I believe that was written for him. Yeah, by Paul Stanley and Bob Ezrin, so that's a song that was probably written during those earlier 1997 sessions with Bob. Speaking of former members of the KISS family joining in on this album, you got Bruce Kulick actually plays some guitars on this album. I know he does the background guitars on the song Within, which was a holdover from the Carnival of Souls sessions, but he also plays some bass on the album, which is interesting. And then you also get Tommy Thayer playing some electric guitar on this album as well. So you got 3 different generations of Kiss guitarists playing on this album. You got Bruce, you got Ace, you got Tommy. Very interesting. And then most of the drums on this album are done by studio drummer Kevin Valentine. Peter Criss only plays drums, I believe, on Into the Void, Ace's song. I believe Into the Void is the only song on this album, with the exception of the song You Wanted the Best. To include the full lineup of the band, of course, You Wanted the Best has a verse sung by each of the 4, which is pretty cool. But even on that song, I don't think Peter drums. I think that's Kevin Valentine on the drums for that one as well. The album, Psycho Circus, eventually comes out in, I believe, September of 1998. Look at this lenticular cover. It didn't originally come out on vinyl. It was originally just on CDs, and they had this cool lenticular cover that they replicated really well for this, the, 2014 vinyl edition? Yes. This is, to date, the only pressing of this album on vinyl. I also have this VHS tape of the Psycho Circus 3D music video. Yes, that's right, 3D. I've got my official Kiss branded 3D glasses that came with that video. Kiss was going pretty ham on the whole late 90s technology thing. I love the music video for Psycho Circus. There's so many cheesy 90s effects. This album, I don't think sold that well in terms of like lighting up the rock charts or anything. And it's been a bit of a divisive issue amongst Kiss fans. There's been a lot of discussion of this album because it was a little bit disappointing when it came out. Kiss fans have waited so long to have an album by the original lineup of the band, and it really wasn't that. It's really Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons present their vision of Kiss with, you know, Ace and Peter showing up at certain points, but it's not really a cohesive effort. Paul and Gene made it pretty clear around that time that they were the only 2 members of Kiss to really have creative input, and that they had pretty much just signed Ace and Peter onto some 5-year contracts at the beginning of 1996, just as paid employees, which is kind of a shame, you know. Kiss in the 70s were absolutely split 4 ways. Gene, Paul, Ace, and Peter each had a vote into the creative process of the band back in those days, but by this point, it is the Gene and Paul project. But yeah, the album comes out, and Kiss has a whole promotional plan. They appear on some TV shows. I know they were on Mad TV around that point.
We ever gonna meet, you know, your mystery boyfriend?
No, because he works at night,
get off!
stupid! Stop it, stop it!
All right, take you,
There he is.
There was actually a lot of Kiss coverage in TV around that point, especially around the Halloween season. Kiss is always a big deal around the Halloween season, due to, you know, the whole costuming aspect of everything. But Halloween 1998 was pretty special. They opened up the Psycho Circus World Tour at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, and it was it a pay-per-view concert? No, I believe the first couple songs of the show were broadcast live on national television in the US. I know that the concert was a massive spectacle with a bunch of opening acts as well as an actual literal circus performing before the event. I've read stories from people who were there that the event was fairly like disorganized and crazy, but Kiss's performance that night was really good. It's a great concert, of course professionally videotaped and eventually released on Kissology Volume 3. Well worth watching. It was a tradition of mine for a while to watch that concert every Halloween. I haven't kept up with that recently, but great concert. And yeah, the Psycho Circus tour included a newly revamped stage. They had brought out what they had advertised as their biggest and best stage of all time for the reunion tour, and then they built upon that even more for the Psycho Circus tour. Like, for the first time they had, you know, Kiss always has their big giant light up logo behind them. Now they got 2 of them. and they've got what probably was their biggest stage up to that point. They'd switched over from the Love Gun throwback costumes that they had worn on the reunion tour, and now they were doing a different throwback. They were throwing back to the Destroyer era, wearing those costumes on that tour. They did an American leg of touring from between mid-November to early January of 1999. Took a couple of weeks off, wound up doing a tour of Europe in February/March, and then performed in South America in April of 1999. Oh, and one thing that they did during that little break between the North American tour and the European one was one of the largest audiences they ever performed in front of, if you count TV audience, when they played at the Super Bowl. I don't think they played the halftime show. I believe it was the pregame show. But still, big audience for the original 4 members of KISS to perform in front of. Big moment for them.
Jason, Paul Stanley, Ace Frehley, Peter Criss, and the explosive rock and roll of KISS.
They then said that they were going to do another American leg in the summer of 1999. That eventually got pushed back to the fall, and then the winter, and then never really happened. The Psycho Circus tour sort of ground to a halt faster than some people were expecting them to. And there were lots of rumors around that time that stuff was going wrong within the band, that the band was not getting along, that, you know, there were fights with Peter, or fights with Ace, or all kinds of stories. There were stories that KISS simply couldn't sell enough tickets to a potential 1999 tour. I mean, bear in mind that KISS had done extensive touring in North America in 1996, then again in 1997, then again in 1998, and KISS is not the Rolling Stones. As popular as they are, I don't think that the market has ever really been able to sustain year after year of consistent KISS touring. So it is entirely possible that KISS and or their promoters were concerned about the ability to sell a full-blown summer tour of 1999. And I told you about how previously in KISS's history what they had done to sort of bolster ticket sales when they were afraid that they wouldn't, was this scheme they concocted to take off the makeup in 1983 and make a whole media spectacle out of that, and then that allowed them to do the exact same thing 13 years later and create a huge media spectacle in 1996. Now, what were they going to do now in 1999 to boost ticket sales? Well, I'll get to that a little bit later, because they did have a trick up their sleeve for their next tour. So yeah, KISS didn't tour at all between April of 1999 and the end of that year. But what they did do was a couple of interesting projects, including a feature film called Detroit Rock City. This was not like Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park from 21 years earlier. This was a Hollywood movie made by New Line Cinema that didn't feature Kiss in full-blown acting roles, although they did perform at the end of the movie. It's just a really fun movie about a group of high schoolers who go on a quest to see Kiss at Cobo Hall in Detroit in 1978. Although it's always annoyed me that Kiss never actually played Cobo Hall in 1978. But whatever. It's a fun movie. It's... I don't know. I kind of like it. It was a major box office flop. But it's fun, and it's worth watching just for the fact that they rebuilt the Love Gun stage from 1977 to basically its original specifications for the movie. I think that's awesome. In the meantime, Kiss started to work on what they were going to do for the Millennium. They really wanted to do an epic Millennium concert to ring in the year 2000, and they were spitballing ideas amongst themselves And in interviews, we're talking about such grandiose plans as, like, we're going to perform in front of the Statue of Liberty, or in front of the pyramids in Egypt, you know, or maybe under the Brooklyn Bridge like they had for the MTV performance in '96. They talked about all these potential ideas, and what eventually happened, what was eventually announced as the Epic Kiss Millennium concert, took place at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver, in another move that for some Kiss fans it would have considered like kind of disappointing. It's like, you went from like performing in front of the pyramids in Egypt as your original plan to now performing at a stadium in Western Canada? Okay. I mean, I would have been stoked about that. I'm from Vancouver, but the flaw was that I was 4 years old in 1999, and had no idea what Kiss was. So 4-year-old me did not attend that concert, unfortunately, and even if I had, I wouldn't have been able to remember it. But Kiss did perform in Vancouver for the Millennium, counted down to the year 2000, before, of course, they performed the Rolling Stones song that Ace frequently sings, 2000 Man.
Do we have a countdown? Do we have this midnight, people? Welcome to the 21st century! Don't you know I'm a 2000 man? And my kids, they just don't understand me at all.
After that, 3 days later, they did a little one-off concert in Anchorage, Alaska. But the big story was that backstage at the Millennium concert, there was a news reporter interviewing Ace, and Ace got asked, what are your plans, what are Kiss's plans for the future, moving forward? What's the next stop, another album? And Ace says, well, actually, we think this is about it. We're going to go out next year, being the year 2000, and we're going to do a big farewell tour, and then that's going to be it. And then Gene came out right afterwards and said, I don't know what Ace is talking about. Oh, that's not true. We're not going to do that. And that would not be the first or the last time that Gene did not mince words in denying the occurrence of something that would then eventually totally happen. So yes, the ball was rolling for a farewell tour in 2000, and that was what would be next on the Kiss doc. But as we know, was it really a farewell tour? No. Kiss continued to tour after that. It's a whole story when I get into the 21st century and Kiss's activities over this past 20 years, because it's crazy. I feel like I've covered the whole scope of like a band's existence. I've covered 27 years of history, and I'm like, what am I, halfway through? I got 21 more years of history to cover. It's crazy. Anyway, that'll do it for this episode. The next episode will indeed be all about the farewell tour. Thank you so much for watching. Check out the description for links to where you can find my music where it's sold or streamed online. I am a musician myself. I'll also throw a link in there to the KISSTORY playlist so you can watch all the previous episodes of this series. Thanks so much for watching. Like this video if you like what you saw. Subscribe to my channel if you've been enjoying all my videos, and you can ring the notification bell as well if you want to be notified whenever I upload a new video, which should be real soon. Thank you so much for watching. New video some point this week. New KISSTORY video sometime in the future. I don't really have a release schedule for the KISSTORY videos, but thank you so much for watching. Catch you again real soon.